Sweet Baby Inc. is toxic to video game releases, and almost every single title they've worked on has been a complete and utter disaster, and it looks like God of War Ragnarok's PC release is having an extremely tough time because the reviews are not positive and the player counts are bad. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, God of War Ragnarok is not a terrible game, but it is not as good as the 2018 God of War, and unfortunately for Sony, it looks like they are undergoing some serious problems with the once highly anticipated PC release because the Sweet Baby effect is well underway. It says the peak concurrent player counts for Santa Monica Studios' God of War Ragnarok are less than half of the studio's previous installment, God of War. As reported by, of course, SteamDB, God of War Ragnarok hit a peak concurrent player count of 31,606 on launch day, and if we head on over there, it did go up by a little bit. It is at 35,615 for an all-time peak, but that's still not great. It's still not the numbers that they were most likely anticipating, because that is over the 31,000 is over 57% less than the previous installment in the franchise God of War, which had a peak concurrent player count of 73,529 when it released to Steam back in January 2022. And I think that there are a plethora of problems with this game. And one major issue is, yes, Sweet Baby Inc. They did end up going through this game. We do not know exactly what they changed because, of course, they never list off exactly what they worked on, but there were race swaps in this. People were unhappy with it. The general pacing of the story was significantly worse, at least in my opinion, than the other God of War release, and people right now are not happy with Sweet Baby Inc. There are millions of gamers who are boycotting their titles and who are refusing to buy a PC version of the game if they already own it on PlayStation. Why would you buy two copies when you don't want to support a company like this? You've already experienced it. It's not like you're missing out on anything, and there are plenty of PC players who, yeah, are part of the boycotts, but we also know that there is another major problem with this release, and that is this. Notice, PlayStation Network account required, subject to the PlayStation Terms of Services and user agreements, and they had not decided to go away from this direction. This is what happened with Helldivers 2. They required a PSN account, and then tons of people decided they were not going to play, they were going to boycott, and then, in that case, Sony decided to switch things around and no longer require a PlayStation Network account, but they did not do that with Ragnarok. They decided to stick to their guns, even though tons of people were unhappy, and I do think that that is yet another reason why this game has been a failure on PC so far, and right now the all reviews are sitting at mixed only a few days after release. People are not afraid to voice when they are unhappy with a product, and a lot of the complaints here are truly that this PC version is not even up to par with the PlayStation version, that it's optimized extremely poorly, and it does not run well. There are plenty of positives, don't get me wrong. There are people who are enjoying this, and look, if you want to buy this, that's awesome. I hope you buy it, I hope you enjoy it, I hope you have a good time with it. But there are plenty of people who are saying, hey, I gave it a shot and it was not good. As you can see, there are people saying it's an awesome game all around, but they cannot give a positive rating as you must be online to play it. I have a home desktop and a Steam Deck. I love playing both at home and while I have a stable internet connection, but I travel frequently and love bringing the deck on the plane. If I can't play a game I paid $60 for while traveling without internet, I'm not going to give it a positive rating, which is very true. Plenty of people do not want to play a game or buy a $60 game when it requires an online connection, especially when they are traveling. That sucks because then you can't end up playing it. Not recommended. I am not here to preach about the PlayStation account problem. No, the biggest problem I have with the game is technical. Ever since Update 2, a major memory leak has occurred with me in Midgard, which consistently crashes my whole computer. I would give it a positive review, but this is such a consistently annoying issue that I cannot. PSN requirement is ridiculous. It's a shame. Big fan of the God of War series, but I'm not on board with this ransom approach, forcing you to sign up to things, submit photos. Yeah, I mean, while I think many people do have PlayStation Network accounts, it's just the point that while you are on PC, they are also trying to get you to log in with your account. It's the fact that they are not giving you an option and they are requiring you to sign in order to play the game. That is the major problem. Again, it doesn't take very long to sign up for an account, but it's just the requirement behind it that upsets people. Just use a mod to bypass the PSN requirement. Separate accounts for single player games should never be required. I 100% agree. If we are talking about a game where it's multiplayer, I can understand that a little more, but at the same time, it still doesn't sit well with me, doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But when it's a single player game and they are requiring you to sign in order to play it, there are going to be plenty of people who are going to decide, nope, I'm just not going to buy it at that point. There's people saying, been looking out for this game to come to PC ever since I heard they were making a sequel for the 2018 game, and finally it releases and it's barely playable in the state it is currently in. I have to say this all the time, but gamers are not beta testers. Games should not release buggy and broken and technically unsound. If you are gonna launch a game at full price, you should be giving us a full price experience. We are not beta testers. This is something that companies just don't get anymore. They think it is acceptable to launch games in a terrible state, and that's not the case. People are not afraid to refund their games or just not buy it at all until they see their favorite content creators live streaming it or talking about it and reviewing it, because the problems that arise now are crazy. A game shouldn't have launched with game-breaking bugs and glitches. I understand titles are not going to be 100% perfect, right? I understand small little issues, but when you cannot play the game because it's so freaking broken, that's a major, major problem. I love having to sign into PSN to play a single-player game. I'm glad you didn't learn a single thing from what happened with Helldivers 2. You should definitely keep doing this. Don't listen to the haters. It's funny. I enjoyed the combat of previous God of War, but felt the story was too short, so I bought to see what happens next, and I'm disappointed. The cons are that the combat balance felt out of tune, the auto lock is a total mess up, the UI's blurry on 1920 1080, packed full of annoying essential characters, characters from previous games behaving out of character, like they're odd and they're toxic. Yep, that's a sweet baby effect. Kratos acting like a total tool. Yep, again, the sweet baby ink effect. It's just unfortunate that such an amazing game, or what should be an amazing game, was completely butchered by these people. And I'm sure that part of that is, Sony Santa Monica and a lot of the activists that work at this company. But I do also think that, yeah, Sweet Baby Ink had a major, major factor on what the game ended up being. And I think that this title does have a lot of good moments. I did live stream it when it released. I thought the combat was really great. I thought visually it was stunning. I enjoyed a lot of elements of the game, don't get me wrong, but it did just feel completely different from the other games, primarily because, yes, of the way that the characters act, some of the new characters that they decided to add. It was just unfortunate. So I will be keeping my eye on this to see if Sony actually takes the hint, right? Because they did for Helldivers 2 after the fact. They ended up removing the PSN account requirement. So maybe they will do that here. But we had been talking about this for months leading up to release, and they didn't make a statement. So it seems like that's not their plan. They really don't care about what we have to say. And while they're getting roasted for it, all reviews are sitting at mixed. The player counts are not as good as they probably were hoping. Again, less, or not quite less, about half of what the God of War 2018 release ended up being when it finally came to PC. And, well, things are just not looking good at this point in time for God of War Ragnarok. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.